Yes, I'll talk.
Okay.
Come on, do I? They just read me my rights. What do I say?
Welcome back to Advocacy Alchemy with Professor Ross. Today we have a good one, guys. We're headed to Leesburg, Florida, where we have some body cam footage that captures, well, a bold moment and kind of bizarre. It's a theft inside of Jenkins Nissan dealership. We have a 24-year-old employee named Nykieria Sims, and she's caught on surveillance footage doing something, it might seem simple at first. Let's watch what happens, and we'll see what this felony theft is. We'll break it down at the end. We'll talk about the law, the evidentiary standards, and we'll even act like we're on a jury. So with that, let's jump in.
She's in the office. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so my name's Officer Navarro, the Leesburg Police Department, Officer Gazinski. Do you have any idea why we're here?
No.
No. Okay. Do you know there's cameras in here?
Yeah.
Yeah? Everywhere.
I know.
Where you're sitting?
Yes.
Where you work?
I know. Everywhere.
Okay, so you have nothing to say?
No.
Alright, so get up, put your hands behind your back.
For what?
I'm not gonna ask again.
Mom, what's your phone number? They're talking about put my hands
24 to
behind my
49,
back.
I'll call you right back.
Yes, Mom. What's your phone number? I need to know your phone number. I don't know.
You're gonna be able to get your phone in a second.
Okay. He said I'll be able to get my phone in a second.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call 49 real quick.
Hope you can't be on your way, Mom, because I don't know what's going on.
Actually, you can take a yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm going to read this to you. Just let me finish it, and then you can just answer the question I'm going to ask you at the end, and then we'll go from there. Okay? So, like I said, just let me finish it. If I heard this in movies before, but I got to say it all. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand each of these rights I have explained to you?
Yes.
Do you wish, having these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to me if I have any questions? Or I can make a question, I can ask a question, you can decide to answer it or not.
You can't tell me what's going on.
So
I have to say yes or no before I can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'll talk.
Okay.
Come on, do I? They just read me my rights. What do I say?
Alright, so, ma'am, stop. I can just put the phone over here. So there's camera footage here of you taking money out of this backpack, putting it into a cash register, and then taking money out of that cash register and putting it into this bag.
Getting change yesterday when I got change?
Out of your personal bag?
Yes.
Okay.
I was getting change. I've done that before.
$260 of change?
I was getting change for $100.
Okay, I'm just asking.
And then yes, I got change yesterday.
Okay, is there any reason why those bills then... So you're saying you received that in a transaction?
No, I got money from my brother. So me and my brother, we were staying together.
Okay.
He ended up leaving.
So it's your personal money?
Yes.
So you think you can bring your personal money and take it out with Nissan's money?
Getting change.
Yeah, that's the same thing. You're putting your personal money into their cash registers
for smaller bills,
and you're taking money out of their cash register.
To the cashiers yesterday.
Who? So you're saying you got approval for this?
Yes.
From who?
I was like, hey, do you guys have change? And they were like, you can get it out of there.
I'm just asking, who gave you approval to do this?
I spoke with Angie and Jackie. They were in there, and I asked them for change, and they were like, oh no, we don't have any change, but you can get it out of there.
Would there be any reason why she would have permission to do this? Okay.
No, we don't. I don't exchange change, especially with $100 bills. That's not something that we do.
They told me that even my first week. Like most people have gotten change. People do it from the tech.
We'll get a receipt for this in a second. Just saying that we got this from you guys. Okay. Okay. Well, the bills are counterfeit, so the bills are not real. Technically, you
know that?
That's not. Technically, you stole $260 from Nissan. You put fake bills into their cash register.
No, they were fake.
Okay.
It was just money that my brother gave me. I'm like, okay.
I understand. But listen, I understand all that, but let's be real. Doing that that's not even reasonable. No. Doing the whole I'm getting change from Nissan's cash register to make my own, like, I think you're old enough to know that doesn't even make sense. Like, you shouldn't even be doing that at all. Wherever. This is your place of employment. This isn't your bank. So this isn't a place for you to be doing those transactions, especially when, I saw the video, so it's not like, and you can say what you want, but I saw you on video doing exactly that. Alright, so right now we for sure have, obviously, theft, because they're out $260, and then, obviously there's counterfeit bills that are obviously marked with the marker, so you're just gonna have to give me a few minutes. I'm, speaking to a few people that are not from here, they're my supervisor and all that, and then we'll be going from there. Okay?
Can I call my mom?
Nah, not right now. The lighter can't go with you, alright? Nothing else here. Alright, with the back of my hand, I'm gonna touch this back here, alright?
My vape is back there.
They won't let that go in either, okay? Anything on this one?
I'm not sure.
With this being on her and not meeting the exact description of the other $20 bills, this has to go with her. So you guys will see her in court anyway. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, $8. All singles. We'll put this in here for now. This will be going with you to the jail, right? And then I'll put these in here. Reference to her car, right? Because you drove here. What do you guys want to do?
It needs to be off property.
Do you have an extra key somewhere?
No, that's the only one.
Until when?
By the end of the day.
Okay.
I would just have to call someone to come and get it.
Well, because you're going to have a bond. So if you can have someone bond you out, so you're going to have someone to come and pick it up, or they'll have it towed by tomorrow. If you don't, what tow company do you guys use?
Spencer's.
So you'll have to call Spencer. So, because this has to go with you too.
I don't remember anyone's number.
You're gonna have to
write my mom's number down.
You're gonna have at the jail. You can get your phone. Boom, like I said, you're gonna have a bond, so you can bond out today. You can be out by the middle of the day, mid-afternoon. We'll be going to the Leesburg Police Department now. We'll probably be there around 2 hours. In reference to doing all the paperwork. We do all the paperwork there, so that when you go to the jail, you go straight in. You can call somebody. They can call a bondsman, and you can bond out.
Would I be able to use my phone like when I get there?
You use their phone. You're gonna have to be. You can get your phone and get a phone number. Yeah, they'll let you get like 5 phone numbers. Yeah. Oh, 37. When you get back to your car, you think you can fill out a 27A and then have her sign it, please?
Sorry, I'm guiding you. I don't know.
No, you're fine. I mean, like I said, if you have someone that bond you out, you can bond out today, whether it's your mom or brother. Take a seat in there.
Definitely, as of 2 days ago.
Okay, so everybody knows what's going on here, right? She had some fake bills, and they even had marked for motion picture purposes. Okay, so she had fake movie money here, okay? All right, this is in Florida. So let's break this down. Nykieria Sims faced first theft. This is found in Florida statute section 812.014, section 2E. Petty theft occurs when a person knowingly obtains or uses or endeavors to obtain or use the property of another person with the intent to either temporarily or permanently deprive that person of the right to the property or the benefit. All right, here the value of the property is between $100 and $750, so it's petty theft. Now, this is a first-degree misdemeanor. It's punishable up to 1 year in jail, 1 year of probation, and a fine of up to $1,000. Here, Sims was recorded placing counterfeit money into the dealership register. She removed $260 in real cash. Her own statements confirm the act, and they have surveillance footage, okay? Now, though she claims she was just making change, she didn't have permission to take the real money and replace it with fake, okay? The business was financially harmed by this kind of action. Now, if they even gave that money to someone else, the harm would have been increased, because think about the reputation, all that. All right, next you have possession of 10 or more counterfeit bills. This is found at the Florida statute, section 831.08. Now, this is defined as knowingly possessing 10 or more fake notes or bills with the intent to utter or pass them as if they are true. Now, this crime centers on both the quantity of the counterfeit items and the intent of the defendant to defraud someone else. This is a third-degree felony. This has that 555, 5 years in prison, maybe 5 years of probation, and then a fine of $5,000. Sims had 12 counterfeit bills. Right, 5 of them had already been used in the register. All the notes had the same identical serial numbers, and they all were marked for motion picture purposes. All right, so her intent to pass them as genuine was satisfied by attempting to receive legitimate money in exchange for the fake. All right, number 3, we have trespass warning issued. Okay, here, that just means it was a formal notice that stops and prohibits a person from entering or remaining on property after being directed to leave. So she's been directed to leave and not return. The penalty only comes if it's violated. So that's your final warning. Don't come back here. Now, if she violates, a person can be charged with trespassing. This is a second-degree misdemeanor, carries up to 60 days in jail, a fine of up to $500. Next, let's move into our evidentiary standards. Let's walk through the 6 levels of evidence and how they each are applied in cases like the one today. All right, starting at the lowest, number 1, mere suspicion. Now, this is simply a hunch or gut feeling that the police or government agent has that something might be wrong. It's not enough to justify a stop or any additional legal action. Now, it will bring the police to the scene. Usually when you make that 911 call, that's mere suspicion. That's going to bring the police out. They're going to look around. If there's more, they'll stay. Moving up, here's the more. Number 2, reasonable suspicion. At this level, the police and the government have specific and articulable facts that can lead a police officer to believe a crime is occurring. Surveillance footage, statements from the person who found out that something was wrong. All those types of things raise the suspicion. These things show that Sims was making unauthorized exchanges of money. All right, that's the surveillance itself is visual evidence that can easily elevate from mere suspicion up to reasonable suspicion. At this level, police can detain a person, and during that detention, they can investigate further to see if there's a crime, and they're going to arrest the person formally. Moving up one more level, you have probable cause. At this level, the government and the police can seek out an arrest, they can seek out a search warrant, and in certain occasions, they can search without a warrant. This level is defined as when facts and circumstances would lead a reasonable person to believe a crime has been, is being, or will be committed, and the suspect is involved. All right, here we had those fake bills once again. All right, they were confirmed by a fraud pen. Anybody who's ever worked in retail and dealt with cash, you've seen the little black pens that you mark and it turns a different color if it's fake money. All the bills have the same serial number, and Sims admitted to putting them in the drawer. Sufficient facts to go ahead and arrest her. Moving up one more level, we have preponderance of the evidence. All right, now this is the civil standard. All right, once you get to this level, this is where people are in court suing each other for money. Now, if Sims is on probation, this is all the probation officers have to prove, or this is all the evidence they have to give over to the prosecution they approve to send someone to prison. All right, 51% of the evidence. That's all that's required at this level. This level means more likely than not, the claim is true. Now here, if she was dealing with some kind of revocation or probation violation, she was not. We're talking about if she was. Looking at the surveillance footage, her admission and the identical bills, I mean, that's way more than 50% that she committed theft and fraud, and that would easily be a violation for probation, all right? Number 5, clear and convincing evidence. Now, this is a higher standard, and this one means highly probable and substantially more likely to be true than untrue. And we're talking about a person's claim that they're bringing, okay? To win this type of case, you need about 75% of the evidence in your favor, all right? This standard is used when the prosecution wants to see enhancements on a sentence. This is also used in certain special cases. Fraud cases, one, yes, because you need more evidence and receipts to show that there was an actual fraud that was committed. Also, it's used in certain family law cases where you want to try to change custody of children from one household to the other, things like that. Here, in this case, the money being marked as for motion picture purposes and the reuse of the same serial number and prior theft, that all contributes to a strong, convincing narrative that she intended to defraud this time also. Moving up one more level, we have number 6, beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, this is the highest standard in American law. It requires that the fact finder be firmly convinced of the truth of the charge. All right, beyond a reasonable doubt means that there is no other logical conclusion besides the defendant being guilty of the charges that have been brought. A prosecutor has to meet this level for each element of the crime. Here, the state probably can meet this burden simply by having things like the videos, the surveillance, and the body cam, the forensic ink test, that's the pen that you use to mark the bills, her being in physical possession of the fake money, and the confession. All right, that would leave a jury with little room for any doubt. So with that, what would we do if we were on a jury? Let's find out next. Okay, now let's put yourself in the jury box. Big question. Would you convict Jessica for disorderly conduct based on what you saw and heard? You've seen it all. Now just imagine if you had the rest. You get the footage from the restaurant to see how she's been throughout the whole day. The prosecutor brings in that other witness, the boyfriend. and maybe the other friends they were out with at the restaurant. And they tell the truth, exactly how she acted. Let's move into the second question. How about resisting? Do you think she was resisting arrest? From the little bit that you saw, they got her up, she's talking crazy to the police. Do you think the arrest originally happened because of the disorderly conduct or because of how she was talking to the police? Because remember, she's out in the park, but it's at night. There's not really anybody out here. She might be loud. But most of all, police came on because she seemed to be in distress. They were trying to make sure she was going to be safe. And this isn't the type of arrest that they want to actually punish her. Do you understand? This is more for her own safety. You don't want a drunk woman to be out here because she might get taken advantage of, and that'll just be a worse crime later on. All right, let's think about your intuition. All right, officers, they had to decide very quickly. They come onto the scene, she's crying. Is this woman in danger first? Second, is she unstable? And then third, okay, maybe she's just intoxicated. And last, okay, she might be grieving also because of maybe a breakup. We don't know. But what we do know is, look, she's barefoot, crying, she's alone. She's also verbally aggressive, evasive, and she contradicted herself repeatedly. So where does that leave the police? What does your gut say? Do you see a victim of heartbreak? Or do you see someone who needs to be detained? Tell me in the comments below. Guilty or not guilty? Should the police have arrested her or just let her go? Nykieria Sims was charged with petty theft and possession of counterfeit bills. The evidence is fairly clear here. The intent was established and her own words helped seal the case. She was originally released on a $3,500 bond, but she was ultimately convicted. All right, so on May 19th of this year, 2025, she was sentenced to 24 months on supervised probation. She had to pay $787 in court costs and fines and complete 12 hours of court-ordered counseling. And importantly, she was trespassed from Jenkins Nissan. Now, some may think that her sentence reflects not only the seriousness of the charges, but also acknowledges her status and need for some guidance, being a fairly young person. What do you think? You tell me in the comments below. Guilty, not guilty. Why? I can't say this is a cautionary tale. A momentary decision to bend the rules, whether it's out of desperation or just opportunism, all right, turned here into just a full criminal conviction. This is a perfect example of something not to do. Like, comment, share the video. Please take a second, subscribe to the channel. Remember, this is Advocacy Alchemy. I am Professor Ross. I'll see you tomorrow. Everyone have a great day. If you're in one of these states where it's been super hot, stay cool. I'll see you tomorrow.
Subscribe to Advocacy Alchemy and come back tomorrow at 8:45 a.m.